Greetings people, 'tis I, 480volts, and today we are taking a look at Mega Man X5, initially released for the Sony PlayStation in 2000. Series producer and all-around Mega Man guru, Keiji Inafune, intended for this game to be the final installment of the Mega Man X series. Inafune had his own plans for a new installment to the Mega Man canon, which would center around Zero. A quote from Inafune states, "I had very little to do with X5. I just told the team to finish off the series with this title, and left it at that. That's why the game itself has a real feel of finality to it." However, as we all know, the series did not end with this title, as Capcom saw fit to continue milking X for every last bit they could get out of it. But the big question is, does this game hold up after its initial release in 2000? Well, let's find out. The story is pretty cinematic, although we don't have anime cutscenes this time. Instead, we have a text over still images, which does seem like a bit of a downgrade from X4, but hey, at least we don't have horrible voice acting this time. The game begins with two Reploids, one of whom is clearly Sigma, and the other one, a new guy named Dynamo, discussing their evil plan, which involves a virus, a space colony, and Zero, whom Sigma has had a vested interest in since X2. Sigma attacks Earth, and the Maverick Hunter HQ responds, sending Zero and Mega Man X to fight him off. The Hunters quickly and easily defeat Sigma, who then dissolves into his true form, a computer virus that begins to spread all over Earth, infecting any Reploids it comes into contact with, transforming them into Mavericks. Meanwhile, Dynamo sets the space colony Eurasia on a collision course with Earth, the result of which would surely mean devastation on a planetary scale. The Hunters have two options: fire a giant laser cannon called the Enigma at the colony, or crashing a shuttle into it. If either option is successful, the colony should be destroyed. However, both the cannon and shuttle are old and broken down and in need of parts. Each of these parts are guarded by Reploids, some of which don't trust the Hunters, others who have been infected with the virus. Either way, X and Zero must defeat each of the Reploids to obtain the parts. It is entirely possible for both attempts to fail, resulting in the Eurasia crashing into the Earth. This will not result in a game over, and you will be able to continue on your journey. However, it will result in a bad ending of the game, while successfully destroying the Eurasia will result in one of two good endings, depending on who you finish as, X or Zero. I'll discuss in more detail on how this is accomplished later, but for now, let's focus on the good turn of events. During their travels, X and Zero encounter the Sigma virus. While the effects of the virus are deadly to most Reploids, including X, they seem to increase Zero's power and efficiency, almost as if the virus was made for him. This is noticed by Hunter HQ, who begin to distrust Zero. After the space colony is destroyed, whether by cannon or shuttle, a new virus appears out of the debris. This virus, which the Hunters designate as the Zero virus, has the same effects on Reploids as the Sigma virus, but shows similar readings to Zero. Both X and Zero set out to investigate. As the virus continues to have a positive effect on Zero, X begins to distrust him and asks that he return to HQ. Zero, on the other hand, sees X's distrust as an indication that X has been infected and is becoming a Maverick. This mutual distrust leads the two heroes to fight against each other, after which time Sigma appears to finish them off. Zero manages to damage Sigma, who retreats to another location, and the team sets out after him. Before making his final stand, Sigma reveals that he had orchestrated all of this to unlock Zero's true identity. Upon being defeated, he critically damages both Hunters. Zero then uses the last of his strength to defeat Sigma before going completely offline. When you finish the game as X, a ghostly hologram of Dr. Light appears and repairs him. Soon after, he continues his work with the Maverick Hunters, now holding the beam saber of his late friend Zero. When you finish as Zero, a series of images appear on screen, including Zero's first encounter with Sigma, which took place before the events of X1, his friend Iris, who perished in X4, and the unmistakable silhouette of Dr. Albert Wily. Zero then sees a vision of himself in a lab being upgraded into a powerful killing machine capable of destroying all Reploids. Reflecting on the dreams he has continually had, and the fact that he was once a Maverick, he concludes that if his existence is allowed to continue, he could potentially bring about global destruction. With this realization, he allows himself to die, believing that this will be the only hope for peace. The bad ending occurs if you fail to destroy the space colony. Its collision will result in the massive devastation of the planet and the near extinction of the human race. X will receive a message from Zero, who appears to have gone Maverick, and challenges X to a duel. Upon meeting Zero, X is unable to detect any virus readings from him. Zero explains that this is his true self, who he was always meant to be. The two fight each other to the point of exhaustion, and Sigma appears to finish them off. Again, Zero, having apparently regained his sanity, protects X at the risk of his own life. Sigma incapacitates him, then, in an inexcusably foolish move, retreats despite the fact that he is more than capable of finishing off X. I'm sorry, what? He's lying unconscious, or whatever the robot equivalent is, and you're just going to leave him? You imbecile! You foolish, moronic, asinine simpleton completely void of any intelligence! This is your greatest adversary, the one who has defeated you 4 times already, 5 if you include the beginning of this game, the one whom you never could defeat, and there he is completely defenseless, and you Yeah, whatever. The next set of events plays out just like it does in the good endings. X defeats Sigma, Sigma critically wounds both hunters, and Zero finishes Sigma off with the last bit of strength before going offline. The only difference here is that when the hologram of Dr. Light repairs X, it erases all data from Zero from his memory. Alright, let me try and dissect some of this plot. I definitely love the climactic energy that builds up with the space colony getting closer and closer. I love how the game's atmosphere gets more and more epic as you progress through the final stages with all sorts of callbacks to previous Mega Man games, which I'll talk about later, as well as the music that plays during these events. I love how the Sigma and Zero viruses actually have a positive effect on Zero and not a negative effect, as they have on literally every other Reploid, causing Hunter HQ to raise a few eyebrows. But in my opinion, the ball is dropped when X and Zero fight. This was something that had been hinted at in every previous X game since X2. Also, there were the clues to Zero's creator, which the franchise had been dropping, getting me hyped for a very Anakin versus Obi-Wan Duel of the Fates tier confrontation, and then it just seemed kinda short-lived in this game. Like, it basically boils down to, I'll take over from here, you go back to base. Why should I? You go back to base! Maybe something got lost in the translation from Japanese to English. At least we get a little bit of a taste of what it could have been when you choose the bad route. One thing that's a bit odd is that the Dr. Light upgrade capsule appears to be sentient, able to communicate with both X and Zero. He's even able to make an upgrade for Zero. How exactly he manages to repair X at the end is beyond me, but even in the previous X game he was pretty interactive. Which brings us to Sigma, who references an old man he's recently met who gave him a brand new body. Recognize that body? You should, because that's freaking Gamma from Mega Man 3. And given the giant W in the room where X and Zero fight, it seems pretty clear that this mysterious old man is none other than Dr. Wily. So I guess Dr. Wily must have made some sort of interactive hologram as well, or a robot in his likeness, or maybe he even transferred his consciousness into a robot body. Who knows? If you will allow me to put on my tinfoil hat, I'd like to do some theorizing up in here. I think we can all agree at this point that Wily is Zero's creator. Remember Zero's dream in X4 of Wily telling him to destroy him? Him being Mega Man, or more generally, any model of the Mega Man series, which would include X? If we look back at the classic Mega Man games since the very first one, Wily has shown a particular skill in reprogramming existing robots and turning them evil. Something he never could do with Mega Man. Now this is nothing but speculation on my part, but if I were Wily, I wouldn't want to just destroy Mega Man, I'd want to turn him to the dark side. I'd want to make him defy his innate characteristics of justice. I'd want him to become the thing he hates the most. You know what I think happened? I think Wily programmed a virus within Zero's core designed to infect Mega Man and turn him evil. Whatever ended up happening to the classic Mega Man unit is still a mystery, along with whatever happened to Zero after his initial creation. But I think that the Reploids who discovered Zero were infected by the same virus and turned Maverick. I think that's how he built his entire army. I think he infected Sigma during their first confrontation. And when Hunter HQ examined and studied him, they recognized the virus as whatever it is that makes a Reploid a Maverick, and they purged it from his system, giving him a completely new identity. I think the reason the Sigma and Zero viruses affect Zero the way they do is because they originated from him. I think everything bad that ever happened in the X series is a direct result of Zero, who was created by Dr. Wily. Therefore, I think even from the grave, Wily is still the villain of the X series. Sadly though, Capcom has all but abandoned the questions surrounding Zero's origin. Now he's just Zero, the sidekick of the X series. Let's talk about some of our new characters this time around. Cygnus is, I guess, the leader of Maverick Hunter headquarters. Douglas is the engineer. Lifesaver only appears like twice and is, I guess, a security Reploid. And then there's Aelia. She's basically the epitome of everything I hate about in-game navigators. People dump on Navi, but I'd much rather deal with her. Heck, I'd rather have Omochow from SA2 because at least he doesn't stop the action. But with Aelia, it's like every 2 feet. Hey X, watch out for those pits. X, there's hostile robots up ahead. X, the ceiling is falling. X, watch out for the lava. X, check it out. Giant battleship headed your way. X, will you shut up and let me play this stupid game, please? And the stuff she tells you is just so stupid, like you can reach the statue by going straight in that direction. I'm sorry, but did you seriously just tell me that I can get to point B by going in the direction of point B? And women wonder why us men don't ask for directions. And Dynamo, poor Dynamo. He seems like a great sidekick at first, all cool and slick, popping up a few times to slow us down. But man, after 2 fights, he just drops out of the picture and like, alright, I'm out. So at the end of the day, the story isn't perfect, but I'd say it gets the job done and would have been a fitting end to the series. Capcom, why? Oh, and let me just go ahead and give a quick shout out to the 8 Mavericks, who, in the US version, were all named after various members of Guns N' Roses. We got Grizzly Slash, Squid Adler, Duff McWhalen, Izzy Glow, Dark Dizzy, the Skyver, Matrix, and Axel the Red. Though it should be noted that if you play this on the Legacy Collection, the names were changed to their original Japanese translations, which do sound more like the traditional Maverick names, but yeah, it's not Guns N' Roses. Okay, let's get into the gameplay. This game is structured a bit differently than previous X titles, but even so, if you played a Mega Man X game before, you should have a pretty good general idea of what to expect. We have our intro stage, and then our 8 Maverick stages, and then the final stages. However, this time, we have a time limit. Sort of. After the intro stage, the space colony Eurasia rapidly approaches Earth on a collision course, leaving the hunters only 16 hours to stop it. These 16 hours do not pass in real time. Rather, each time you enter a stage, any stage, an hour is deducted from the clock. This includes stages you've never beaten before, or even re-entering previous stages. And if you get a game over in one stage and choose to return to the stage select instead of retrying the current stage, you'll lose another hour when you do pick your next stage. Also, Dynamo pops up a couple of times to fight you between stages, and that will also deduct from the clock. If the counter reaches 0, the Eurasia crashes into the Earth, and although you will be allowed to continue, you'll finish with the bad ending. Even though you have the option to play through the Maverick stages in any order you prefer, the game's narrative directs you to go after the first 4 that hold the parts of the Enigma laser cannon. After these 4 are deleted, Hunter HQ will attempt to destroy the Eurasia with the cannon. In the event that this fails, you'll be directed to go to the other Mavericks who hold the parts of the space shuttle. After you've acquired these, HQ attempts to crash the shuttle into the colony. If successful, you can finish with one of the good endings. If unsuccessful, you'll get the bad ending. Either way, the final stages will be open. It should be noted that you can use the Enigma at any time after the intro stage, even before the beginning of your first Maverick stage. Then if it fails, which it most likely will, you can attempt to use the shuttle right then and there. Again, whether the shuttle succeeds or fails, the final stages will be open. So it is possible, however unwise, to skip all of the Maverick stages and go straight to the final stages if you wanted to. The thing is, whether or not either of these attempts succeed or fail is based on random number generators. Collecting the parts only increases the likelihood of success, but it's still a random dice roll. There's been times in the past where I collected all Enigma parts and Space Shuttle parts and both attempts failed anyway, forcing me into a bad turn of events. And I actually have footage of using the Enigma with no parts whatsoever, and it ends up succeeding. Like for real, I wanted to record footage of the bad ending, so right after the intro stage, I fired the cannon with the intent of immediately launching the shuttle, and the cannon somehow worked. Like, I failed so hard at failing that I actually succeeded. Thankfully, if you save before either attempt and don't get the result you want, you can always reload and try again. Now, I've heard a few people criticize the random number generator, but I understand to some degree why it was included. The game is ultimately meant to be played like a normal X game, going through all 8 Maverick stages before entering Sigma's lair. If gathering the Enigma parts guaranteed the success of the cannon and destroyed the colony every single time, then there really would be no need to bother with the other 4 stages. And if the Enigma was doomed to fail from the beginning, then there's no need to play through the first 4 Maverick stages. The game's story wants you to try with the Enigma first, fail, and then succeed with the shuttle, and adding the RNG does give it a real sense of jeopardy. Like, even if you have all parts, you still don't know if this is going to work or not. Still though, I definitely understand why it's a turnoff for most players who make the effort to get every single part only to be slapped down by the RNG. I gotta say, I'm not a huge fan of the level design in this game. Some of the things you're required to do in different stages come across as a tad bit gimmicky to me. Things like destroying the trucks in Grizzly Slash's stage, or the ever-tedious battleship fights in Duff McWhalen's stage, or this stupid hoverbike section in Squid Adler's stage, which I absolutely hate with a passion. It just seems like it all takes away from the core gameplay of Mega Man, which was running and gunning, or in Zero's case, slicing and dicing. And the final stages, oh my goodness. The first stage is laid out exactly like Quickman's stage from Mega Man 2, killer laser beams of instant death included, the boss of which is none other than the dreaded Yellow Devil, who has apparently taken a bath in an oil slick and calls himself the Shadow Devil. The second stage contains a few sections similar to Sigma's stage in X1, with a boss fight against this monstrosity, also from X1. Stage 3 is the duel between X and Zero. Stage 4 houses the teleport chamber with the 8 Mavericks, and then the final fights with Sigma. But not before the classic disappearing and reappearing blocks, which are so much easier to navigate now thanks to our wall cling abilities, not to mention a few double jump and hover mechanics you've probably picked up along the way. Like X4, you can play as both X and Zero. The same basic gameplay styles apply, with X being the more traditional Mega Man style and Zero being hack and slash. The difference this time is that there are not 2 separate story arcs. Basically, at the start of each stage, you get to choose to play as X or Zero. Note that if the space colony crashes into the Earth, you can't play as Zero for the rest of the game as he's gone AWOL. As always, X scans and copies the weapon data of Maverick bosses, and Zero learns various beam saber combos. Be aware though that X can only shoot special weapons using the triangle button, and the square button only fires normal buster shots. Like the previous titles, there are heart and sub-tanks to collect, 2 sub-tanks and 1 weapons tank, just like X4, and although Zero and X share the sub-tanks, they do not share heart tanks. So whichever hunter picks up more hearts will have the bigger health bar. bar. A new move that both hunters have now is the ability to crouch. This is more useful than it might sound. However, X can no longer shoot through walls like he and his predecessor used to. This is more annoying than it sounds. Let's talk about Dr. Light upgrades. Armor has been botched this time around to the point that when X picks up a light upgrade, he can't equip it until he's picked up the remaining pieces due to some bullcrap security reason that makes no sense at all. However, the reason behind this is that there are actually 8 light upgrade parts that power 2 different suits of armor. One is the Falcon armor, which does the typical things we've come to expect from X, like charging up the special weapons and storing energy from damage for a super attack. The sad thing about this armor is that the charge buster shot is ridiculously small and thus harder to hit enemies with, although it does seem pretty powerful. However, that is a small price to pay for the absolute game-breaking ability that comes with a Falcon armor. You can fly in the air for a limited amount of time and you're pretty much invincible while doing so. This is massive. This is huge. The only thing that could possibly be more game-breaking for a Mega Man game would be walking on spikes. Well, funny you should mention that. The second set of light upgrades powers a suit called the Gaia armor, which is pretty clunky all things considered. Its charge shot is pretty big, able to hit more enemies easier, but the normal shots have a limited range, traveling a few feet in front of you and stopping. And you can't use any of your special weapons in this suit. But holy shoot 'em up, you can do something classic Mega Man never could. Or Base or Zero for that matter. You can stand and or walk on spikes without taking any damage. What? What? Dr. Light figured it out? Also, you can kick or destroy some special blocks that you otherwise wouldn't be able to manipulate, and your wall cling has been tweaked to where you no longer slide down the wall you're clinging to. So that's nice. Honestly though, the Gaia armor is only needed to reach a few specific items and feels rather situational. You're definitely going to spend more time in the Falcon armor. Even though Zero doesn't get light upgrades, he can still pick up the X armor pieces if you happen to be playing as him when you find them. Once you've acquired all 4 parts of an armor suit, you can choose to wear it at the beginning of a stage, or to go as X armorless, or Zero. If you choose to play as Zero when you begin a new file, so basically for the intro stage, Zero will have a special buster that he can shoot with the triangle button. It's nowhere near as fluent as X. It has a slight delay on it and can't be charged, and it just feels clunky, but it's kinda nice to have a long-range attack if need be. If you play the intro stage as X, Zero doesn't have this ability as he will have been damaged by Sigma off-screen. As for X, if you play through the intro stage as him, you'll be wearing his armor upgrades from the previous game, X4, now called the 4th armor. What's this, X retaining something from a previous game? And you'll always have the option to wear it for the rest of the game. Starting the game as Zero negates that, as X is the one damaged and thus loses the 4th armor. So it all comes down to whether or not you want a shot for Zero or the 4th armor for X. I'd say it doesn't really make much difference. I know having the 4th armor from the start sounds amazing, but it's pretty underwhelming, all things considered, compared to the Falcon armor. No shortage of armor upgrades in this game. There's even a secret armor you can find in the 3rd Sigma stage called the Ultimate armor. It's basically a more powerful 4th armor with the ability to use an unlimited amount of Nova attacks, making it pretty overpowered. You can even get a little something for Zero as well, a permanent enhancement changing his color scheme from red to black, buffing his attack and defense power a bit more. Both of these upgrades can be unlocked at the beginning of the game by entering special cheat codes at the start. I believe that they were also available through cheat codes in X4, but I could be mistaken on that, at least with regard to the original PS1 version. I know you can unlock them in the Legacy Collection. There's also somewhat of a leveling system in this game. When you start the game on a fresh new memory card, bask in the nostalgia. X and Zero have a rank level of B, which is the lowest. As you play through the game, you can increase their ranks to A, SA, and GA, which is the highest. While I'm not entirely sure what all serves to increase your rank, I imagine it has to do with beating stages in shorter amounts of time, taking less damage, minimizing your contact with Sigma and Zero viruses, etc. There are a few stages that have random Reploids in distress calling for help. When you touch them, they warp out of there. I don't exactly know why they needed the magical touch of X and or Zero to warp, but I don't care, they help boost your rank as well as restore a little bit of your health and give you a free life. So that's nice. Now what happens when you build your rank up, you ask? Well, when you fight bosses early into your game, their health bars should be fairly small, but as your rank builds up, so do the boss's health bars. So the more reputable you become, the harder the bosses become. Well, that doesn't sound very fun at all. Well, believe it or don't, if you finish stages having beaten bosses with somewhat high health bars, you can win special items during the results screen. These items are like equipable buffs, like faster charge shots, extra defense against viruses, etc. You can also choose if you want some extra lives or permanent increases to your health bar, essentially heart tanks. Both Zero and Armorless X can equip up to 4 of these special buffs, but when X wears any kind of armor, he can only equip up to 2, unless you're wearing the Gaia armor, in which case you can't equip anything. What's interesting, after you play through the game a little bit and begin a brand new file, X and Zero's rank should be where you left him in the last file. So a good way to get a lot of really cool items early on would be to first play through the game to get their ranks to GA, or as close as you can, and then start a new file with their ranks being high, thus the bosses having high health bars. You may even want to play on hard mode, which increases all of the boss's health anyway, though I highly recommend recommend using the cheat code to get X's ultimate armor so you can spam Nova attack all day. Even though the cinematic presentation is a notch below X4, this game's graphics are nice. Special shout out to the final Sigma stage. Man, this place looks like the inside of a computer that decided to have a rave. The music was composed by Naoto Tanaka, Naoya Kamisaka, and Takuya Miyawaki. This soundtrack is pretty alright. In terms of composition, a lot of it continues the vibe set in X4, but the production definitely features a bit more guitar this time. As was the case in X4, the intro stage has two different themes depending on whether you play as X or Zero. I'm not the hugest fan of X's theme, it's not bad by any means, but it's nothing compared to his theme in the last game. But I think I'm in the minority here given the positive reactions to my remix of this theme, which I uploaded back in 2016. Some of the comments are as recent as last year. Zero's theme is awesome, nice epic rock. Some tunes like Grizzly Slash and Axel the Red are merely okay, with others like The Skyver and Matrix are quite good. I actually found myself really digging Dark Dizzy stage music. None of the music is really hard rock, well, except for Dynamo's theme, which is absolutely kickin', but I think it all fits the Mega Man atmosphere. Before the colony crashes or is destroyed, the stage select music is nice and driving with just a hint of climactic energy. Once the final area is open, the stage select music, which also plays in the first 3 Sigma stages, becomes much more dramatic with a real sense of impending finality, like we are getting close to something big. And then there's the music that plays during the duel between X and Zero. Holy mackerel, somebody really dialed up the epic for this theme. The music that plays during the final Sigma stage sounds like a 90s rave party. I'm not gonna lie, I eat it up. It may be cheesy, but it too is epic. The first phase of Sigma is filled with urgency and jeopardy, as if the game is screaming at you to hurry up and kill this guy before he kills us all. And the second phase is very cinematic, orchestral, dramatic, and has a nice blend of foreboding and epic triumph, as though the game is cheering you on as you face this formidable foe. Zero's dying theme is a soft ambient rendition of his intro stage music. It's so good, it's so sad. The credits music is also really nice, kind of somber, yet has a feeling of resolution. I actually think some of my favorite tracks are the reused tunes from previous Mega Man games. Duff McWhalen's theme is an updated version of Bubble Crab from X2. I think they were originally going to give him his own music, which you can listen to when you find the soundtrack, but somewhere along the line they landed on Bubble Crab's music. I don't exactly know why, but who cares? It's a banger either way. Dr. Light's theme is the same one used in X1. The boss fights with Shadow Devil and this thing are the Wily and Sigma stage boss music from Mega Man 1 and X1 respectively, and the opening theme uses motifs from Zero's theme in X1, and of all things, the Get Weapon music from Mega Man 3. I definitely prefer X4's soundtrack just a bit more, and nothing has quite matched the rockability of X1, but this soundtrack is still awesome and is definitely a credit to the X series. At the end of the day, I'd say that this game, which was intended to be the climax of 4 games worth of hype, may not have lived up to its full potential, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't have as much fun recording the gameplay footage for this one as I did with X4. At least not all of it anyway. I love the heck out of stages like Dark Dizzy, The Skyver, and Matrix, but then I do stages like Duff McWhalen and Squid Adler and the Shadow Devil, and I'm just like, ugh, this sucks. So I can finally say with confidence that X4 is my favorite X game. So is this game still worth playing today? Yes, but only because it's bundled with the other X games on the X Legacy collection. I wouldn't go out of my way to snag an original PS1 copy of it, if you know what I mean. Still, would have been a fitting end to the series if only... enough whining. What's done is done. X6, X7, and X8 have all happened and are canon. Let's stop trying to fight it. Anyway, that was my review of Mega Man X5. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to like and comment and check out some of my other reviews as well. Don't also forget to check out my music on Spotify. In the meantime, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Peaces.